rocket ships, jaguars, and an invisible car? Today, we are talking about fear. When I was 12 years old, I had a hard time trusting my parents. Let me explain. It all started with the one-act plays. When I was 12 years old at Central Middle School, they announced that they would be having auditions for the play. Now, I had never been a part of a play before, but I imagined it. To be or not to be, that is the question. I thought to myself, I might be a good actor. I have an expressive personality, a loud voice, and I think it might be fun. I asked my parents, and they said, absolutely, do it. I told them what time they'd have to pick me up, and I prepared. The next day, when they had the auditions, there was a line of other students, many of them who were older than me, some of them who were younger than me, but I didn't recognize almost any of them. And they were all in line to read from a script. You would go onto the stage, the lights would shine on your face, there would be a microphone in front of you, and the director would be sitting in the front seat saying, "Cut!" My time came. They gave me the lines, and I read them with the most expressiveness that I could. I went loud, and I went soft. I spoke really fast, and then I spoke really slow. And I gave them a big smile. After it was finished, a couple people came to me and said, "Hey, you did really good. I think you'll get a part in the play." I was really excited. And then, when 4 p.m. came, everyone began to leave. Well, because that's when the auditions were over. That's when everyone's parents picked them up. Everyone except for mine. I remember looking at the clock, 4 p.m., and then I looked outside the window, and then it was like 4:02 p.m., and then I looked outside the window, and then 4:10 p.m., and then I looked outside the window. Everyone else was leaving. Their mom or their dad was coming to pick them up. Everyone except for me. I thought, surely there must be an explanation for this. I waited until 4:15, 4:20, 4:30, 4:45, 5 p.m. 1 full hour after it was done. Now, at that time, I didn't have a cell phone, and the teacher who was responsible for this had left. I was the only kid at school. They had a payphone. I tried picking it up, but you had to put in a quarter. I didn't have a quarter. I didn't know what to do. I started to get angry, and I started to get sad. I thought, what if they just left me here and I'm gone forever? And that's when I saw my mom's burgundy van pull in. I went and sat in the car, and she apologized. But on that day, I began to think about trust. If you're like me, your parents may have said things to you. "Oh, we're gonna go out for ice cream after this." But you didn't go out for ice cream. "Oh, we'll play a board game like Uno or Monopoly after dinner." But you didn't play a board game like Monopoly or Uno after dinner. And it begins to make you lose trust. Can I actually believe what they say? Now, the reason why I bring this up is actually because of God. Everyone says we should trust God. Trust Allah. Have Tawakul in Allah. But if even some of our closest family members and the people who we love so much, our mom and dad, make mistakes, does that mean I can trust Allah? That is what we are going to be talking about today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to this special Thursday evening in the Muslim treehouse, where we laugh, where we giggle, and most importantly, is it too much drama? Too much drama. Well, because I was talking about drama, I figured I'd be to be or not to be. Okay, I'll stop. Ooh, all right, okay. Well, most importantly, we build a relationship with our Creator. Now, this entire month, we've been talking about emotions, things like sadness, how in the same way that when the clouds get really dense, they begin to rain. When our heart gets really full, we cry. We've talked about things like anxiousness, how it's a mix of nervousness and worry, thinking about the future, and how in some ways it can be good because it forces us to take action and to plan. And we talked about two things, tying your camel and Tawakul. Today, we are going to be talking about something similar. It's not a small question. It's not even a medium-sized question. Dare I say, a big question! How can we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, even our moms and dads can sometimes make mistakes or make a promise and break it. Can we really trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In order for us to answer that question, I'm going to mosey on over to the library, or some like to say, la biblioteca. Let's go. Welcome. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, Brother Amin, your beard looks like it was... Oh, you weren't thinking that? Oh, sorry. What you're thinking is, Brother Amin, how come today's program isn't live? And I have to ask for your forgiveness. Here's the thing. I am on my way on an airplane to Toronto, Canada, because this weekend we're going to a convention known most formally as RIS, Reviving the Islamic Spirit. Inshallah, if you are in Canada, I would love to see you there. We're going to have a little booth, and we're going to be doing some programs on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm also going to be there for the Knowledge Retreat. So if you're in the area, I would love to say salams. Now here's the thing. Seriously. Last week, I said that when we feel anxious, when we feel worried, we should do two things. Tie your camel, right? Tie your camel means take action. Do everything within your own capability to help. But the second thing I told you was Tawakul. That was a word that means trust in Allah. But if you are like me, you might think to yourself, Brother Amin, easier said than done. Trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I've trusted other people before and some of them haven't kept their promises. Even though they are very well intentioned, they maybe made some mistakes. How can I trust Allah? I want you to know that you're not alone. One of the most important prophets in Islam, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Khalilullah, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help with this too. Once, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam goes to Allah and he says, Ya Allah, can you show me how you bring the dead to life? Because look, we all believe that there's going to be a hereafter. In the hereafter, all of us are going to be brought back to life. Prophet Ibrahim asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can you show me? And you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered saying, don't you believe? Like, don't you trust me? And Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam says, yes, I believe, but I'd love to see it. So that way it makes me feel more confident. Here's the point. When we think about our belief, in the same way that like our muscles get bigger when we focus on them, our belief and our ability to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets bigger as we learn about our Creator. And that's why today I want to ask a question to say, why do I trust Allah? In order to answer that question, we're going to be reading a story out of one of our books called The Perfect Planner. This story is called A Special Plan. And before we start, I have to tell you, this is actually one of my most favorite Noor Kids stories, and I think you're going to love it too. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Shireen is traveling to the Amazon rainforest with her mom. I'm so excited to see one, says Shireen as she points to a jaguar in her magazine. Sweet pea, don't get your hopes up. Jaguars are really tough to spot. Shireen daydreams. She thinks to herself, if I can get one good photo, I can win the Junior Ranger photography competition. And if I win the competition, I can get onto the cover of Junior Explorer magazine. And if I do that, then I can become a professional photographer just like you, Mom, says Shireen. Now this is quite a plan. And by the way, if you are like Shireen or you're like me, you're a planner. You think, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then I will make myself onto the moon. You get the point. Plans. Plans are good. Mom giggles as she hugs her daughter. They planned and Allah planned, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. That's a verse from the Quran where Allah says He is the best of planners. Inshallah, sweet pea. For now, let's just get some rest. Shireen and Mom drive into the rainforest. You're my hero, you know that, says Shireen. Is it because I can make the best mac and cheese in Maple Grove? No, Mom. It's because you get to go places like this and take photos of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creations. It is pretty cool. I will say, Shireen's mom has like a dream job. I mean, can you imagine she gets to take photos from across the world, and that's her job? That's pretty sweet. A loud noise scares Shireen. Boom! What was that, says Shireen. Mom stops the car. The tire is flat. I'll have to repair it. I hope this doesn't take too long, says Shireen as she looks at her watch. We need to get as much time as we can to spot that jaguar. I know, I can record our adventure in my journal. While Mom fixes the tire, Shireen writes in her journal. We actually talked about this last week. I have an everyday journal that I write in almost every single day. If you don't have a journal, I strongly recommend it. It's a really great way to get out your feelings. In no time, the two are back on the road. Did you know there are more than 3 million different animals here? 3 million. Not number of animals, types of animals. Wow, that's a lot, says Mom. I can't wait to see them, says Shireen. That would be exciting, but remember, they are rare and excellent at hiding. She's thinking about the jaguar. At the campsite, they set up their tent. We still have 6 hours before sunset. Yep, we can look for some jaguars once we finish, says Mom as she puts up the tent. They finish in record time, but Shireen feels something on her hand. What's that? Water? Man, it looks like rain. We'd better stay in, sweet pea. Rain in the Amazon is serious. Shireen is sad. She feels like nothing is going her way. I guess I can write in my journal some more, she says as she begins to take her pencil to the paper underneath the lamp that she has. Okay, Before we go on, let's talk about it. Shireen's feeling disappointed. She's feeling disappointed because she's created a plan and it's not going her way. This is really normal. Many of us create a plan for what we're gonna do. Oh, today I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna go to school. After I go to school, we're gonna play tennis. After we play tennis, I'm gonna get 30 minutes of screen time. After screen time, I'm gonna be working on a paper. And then after that, we're gonna be eating dinner. Whatever that might plan be. Or whatever that plan might be. But then things don't go as planned. And when things don't go as planned, we start to feel the same way Shireen does. Nervous, worried, anxious, angry. Now, there's small plans, but then there's big ones. Oh, you know what? I am going to score a goal in soccer. But maybe instead of scoring a goal, you actually miss the goal. Or maybe you plan on, hey, I'm going to get a really good grade in my math class. But instead of getting a good grade, you end up getting a bad one, even though you tried as hard as you can. We've all been there. When things don't go as they plan, especially when you've tried your hardest. All right, let's continue to see what happens. The next morning, the weather is perfect. I've packed our things. Let's get going, says Mom. In the jungle of the Amazon, Shireen spots a number of beautiful animals. Look, a toucan, and a dart frog, and a spider monkey. Do you think we'll see a jaguar? I think I see one. Look, says Mom. Allahu Akbar. What? There's a jaguar. It's in the tree. It looks like a small one. Oh my goodness. Allahu Akbar. Let me grab my camera. Be sure that your hands are steady, says Mom. Shireen carefully snaps a photo of the beautiful cat. We did it! Mom, I can't believe it, says Shireen. I'm surprised too. I didn't think we'd spot one, says Mom. As the two walk back to the tent, Shireen overflows with excitement. This photo is the ticket to everything I've ever dreamed. Can you give me the camera? I'd like to see the photo, says Mom. Uh-oh. Shireen? Did you see this? What do you mean? Says Shireen. The photo is blurry. Shireen is horrified. I can't believe this is happening, Mom. All you can see is a blurry blob on a tree. Allahu Akbar. Now, you guys, before we go on, I'm almost crying a little bit because I've been there. We have all been there. That moment when you were hoping for something and it didn't work out the way you wanted. It's like we were talking about last time. We're anxious about something. We're like worried or nervous. And we try the best we can. Like Shireen got the right camera. She went to the right place. She woke up at the right time. She did everything. But it didn't turn out. It stings. What happened? Why did Allah even let that happen? Let's read on. Don't lose heart, sweet pea. Let me tell you a story about these trees. Pay attention to this. The trees in this rainforest are a home for all of the animals, and they are a miracle. How, says Shireen? Remember, there's over 3 million different types of animals, not the total number, types. Birds, bees, beetles, 3 million different types. But the rainforest is a miracle. How? The plants and trees don't get their nutrients from the soil like most do because the rainforest soil is actually very poor. So how do they survive? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a special plan. Let me talk about this a little bit more. You know, it's called a rainforest. A rainforest has a lot of rain. Because there's so much rain in the rainforest, that the rain goes into the soil and it washes away all of the chemical, or it washes away all of the nutrients. Because there's so much rain and the nutrients are always being washed away, the trees there don't get enough nutrients. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a special plan. Mom shows Shireen a map. Millions of years ago in Africa, okay, Africa's over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created an enormous lake. It's called Mega Lake Chad. That lake evaporated and turned into the Sahara Desert. You guys may have heard this. This is the biggest desert in the world, the Sahara Desert. Every day, dust from that desert here in Africa, it flies into the air, travels thousands of miles over the Atlantic Ocean, and that dust lands on top of the leaves in the rainforest and gives the trees here the nutrients to survive. I'm going to share that again in case you didn't follow. The soil doesn't have enough nutrients because in the rainforest there's so much rain, all the nutrients go away. But there's 3 million different types of animals there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best planner. So what did Allah do? Millions of years ago, in Africa, far away from the Amazon rainforest, Allah created a lake. That lake turned into a desert. And today, literally today, every single day, tons of dust flies up into the air. It goes across the ocean and it lands on the leaves of the trees. And that dust which lands on the leaves, that's what gives the trees the nutrients such that they can survive. Allahu Akbar. What a plan. Let's continue. Allahu Akbar, says Shireen. Mom holds Shireen close to her. In the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala planned for the rainforest, He also has a plan for you. It might not be to photograph a jaguar, but maybe to write about it, says Shireen. I like the way you're thinking. You should write that down. All right. Here's the thing. I drive, and my daughter Kauthar, who's 6 years old, is in the back seat. Many of the times when I drive, my daughter will look at me and she'll say, "Hey, Daddy, are you sure we're taking the right way? Hey, Daddy, are you sure we didn't take the wrong turn? Hey, Daddy, are you sure we're going to the right place?" She's 6 years old. Of course I know where we're going. Of course I have a plan. Of course I know where to turn. She just has to trust me. In the same way, when we realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Lord, is Al-Hakeem, means He is the most wise. We realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best planner. Who would have thought that millions of years ago, Allah would cause this lake in Africa to evaporate such that the dust would fly up in the air and go onto the leaves of the trees so that way the Amazon rainforest is sustained? Who would have thought? No one would have. In the same way, in this story, Shireen's photo didn't come out the way she wanted it to. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had another plan. What? She had been journaling the whole time. Maybe Shireen's goal is to become a writer instead of a photographer. And the same is true for us. when things don't go the way that we want them to, it's normal to feel sad or angry. But when we say Tawakul, when I say we should trust Allah, the reason why we should trust Allah is because we know Allah, our Lord, is the best planner. Even if something happens to you and you think it's not good, it could be the best thing that ever happened. And inshallah, speaking of the best thing that ever happened, I always think the best thing that could ever happen is to get a rocket ship. And that's what we're going to talk about in the laboratory. Let's go. Today, we are going to be making rocket ships that take us to the moon. Why are we making rocket ships? Well, because I've got a burning question. Somebody named Layla from California sent me a question. They asked me, Brother Amin, why do Muslims have emotions? If Allah didn't create emotions, life would be much easier, don't you think? This is interesting. Layla said that if we didn't have emotions, life would be easier. What she's assuming is that emotions are bad. Now remember what we said in class during our very first week. We said that our emotions are like a tool. Say, for example, scissors. We can use scissors however we want. They can be used for good. What if we use scissors to create a beautiful thank you card and we give it to our neighbor and it cheers them up? That's good. Or you could use scissors for bad, if we hurt someone with it. Scissors on their own are not good or bad. It all depends on how we use them. The same is true with each of these emotions, whether it is our sadness, whether it is our anxiousness or anger or fear. All of these emotions have good parts to them. And if we don't use them correctly, they can be used to hurt us as well. So that's why we've been talking about how can we channel these feelings. For me, feelings like sadness and anxiousness and worry, they become my gasoline. They become my petrol that I'm able to put into the rocket ship of my life and fly to the moon. If we take our emotions and we use them in positive ways, our sadness, we cry, our anxiousness when we tie our camel and practice Tawakul, when we do these things, our emotions become like fuel, and that fuel helps us fly into the heavens to become the best version of ourselves. Okay, so we are going to be making a rocket ship. In order to make a rocket ship, you need a few things. You need 2 different types of straws. You need a small straw like this with a little L shape on it. You need a bigger straw like this. And you know your straw is big if it can fit, if the small one can fit into it, okay? You need some scissors. You need some tape. You need ideally, this is felt, or you can use any other type of decorative type of construction paper, and some hot glue. So what we're first gonna do is we are going to be cutting this Now, there's no right or wrong answer in terms of how big this should be. You don't want it to be so large that it becomes tough to blow. You also don't want it to be so small that your rocket ship is tiny. I think about 4 inches is pretty good. So we have this. Once we have this, what we're going to be doing is taking some of the duct tape and we are going to be cutting it to become the tip of the rocket ship, okay? What we're going to do here is we're going to take this, we're going to cut it like so, and we're going to put it over the top. Now, this is important because when we end up blowing on the rocket ship, this tip is necessary such that it will allow us to blow it. Okay, so that's part one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just cut a little bit more so that way it looks nice and neat. I think having a neat one is kind of nice. So what I'm going to do is one more strip. I'm going to put this around the sides. Okay, very good. It's neat now. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be adding fins. The reason why fins are important is because fins help guide it to go straight. So what I'm going to be doing, and all three of these fins should be the same. If they're not the same, then what's going to end up happening is the rocket is not going to be balanced. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a triangle here. Okay, so I cut out one piece over here. Now I'm going to use this, and I'm going to try to trace this to create another one on this side. And by tracing it, I can make sure that they are the exact same. Okay, so I'm going to cut this over here like that, which is really simple. All right, then I'm going to do one last one. And the last one I'm going to do is over here. If you use the corners, it's pretty simple because you already have two right edges, and then it becomes a little bit easier. All right, and then finally, once we're done with these, we are going to glue them onto our base. So just like this is over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the fins, and I'm going to glue it over here. I'm going to take another fin, and I'm going to glue it over here. And I'm going to do another fin, and I'm going to glue it over here. Now, if hot glue is not something you've used before, actually, whether you've used it or not, it's something that you should do with your mom or your dad or your grandma or your grandpa, whoever your caretaker is, because if you get it on your fingers, it can really be hot. Now, because we have to let it dry, I'm not going to do it right now. We've already completed one version over here. So this is what it looks like when it's complete. You can see the hot glue is already on there. And now, all I have to do is I take this, put it in, and I go one. Actually, before I do it, I have to tell you something. Today we've been talking about a really important topic. Tawakul. Trusting Allah. For every emotion that we go through, sadness, anger, belonging, jealousy, fear. Tawakul, trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a part of how we process our feelings. Yes, when we're sad, we should cry. Yes, when we are angry, we should go do wudu. Yes, when we feel like we don't belong, we should find good friends. But after we tie our camel, we practice tawakkul, trusting Allah. That trust doesn't just happen overnight like we talked about. Just like Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam asked, why? As time progresses and we build a stronger relationship with Allah, we build our capacity to trust Allah. For me, it was most important when my mom passed away. A few years ago, my mom became sick and she passed away. And everything that I've taught you about, I did. My emotions became very heavy like clouds, and so what did I do? I cried. At times I felt angry. When I felt angry, I would remove myself from the situation. I would tell myself, I am angry right now. And then I would do wudu and try to change myself. There were times when I felt jealous. I wish my mom wasn't sick because none of my friends' moms were sick. And so I did the things that we talked about, like counting my blessings and being thankful for everything Allah has given me. But in the end, what helped me the most was Tawakul, trusting that even though I may not know why this happened, trusting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a plan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. I would have never guessed in a million years that I would be sitting in front of you today and that you would be watching me. All of this, Noor kids, our books, our classes, all of it started because and after my mom passed away. After my mom passed away, that's when I started thinking about my future. That's when I started thinking about the fact that I'm not going to be here forever. That's when I and my wife got the courage to start doing Noor Kids. None of this would be here except for that moment. So if you had asked me, why is this happening? I would have had a difficult time telling you. But because of Tawakul, because of my ability to trust Allah, I knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a plan. Now here's the thing. I know that you might be going through a time of difficulty. Maybe a grandma or grandpa is sick. Maybe a mom or a dad lost their job. Maybe you're starting a new school and you're worried about it. Maybe you've got a friend who may not be a good friend. Whatever it is, you will have emotions. And if we use the tools that we learned, diagnosing our emotion, stepping away from the situation, counting our blessings, finding good friends, crying, and so on and so forth, in addition to Tawakul, those emotions will become fuel that will allow us to become a rocket ship, and inshallah will boost us into becoming the best version of ourselves. That was sick. It was so cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Oh, hey, by the way, I'm on Padlet here. We want you to create your own rockets, and we want to see how far those rockets will go. All right, so there is a video here that shows you how to build a rocket, but we want to see you make them, and we want to see how far they go, and I want to see who's able to build the rocket that goes the furthest. And this is actually a really fun activity, and I want you all to do it. On Saturday, I am eating the world's hottest chip. Yes, the whole thing. I think you're gonna love it, but you'll have to tune in on Saturday. Sister Anam's gonna be hosting the program, and the game shows one that you will never forget. I can't wait to see you again soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.